intro and then hand over the forum to ma'am.
It will take a moment, ma'am.
Ma'am, shall we wait for 2 to 3 minutes so that people can join in also?
We are almost live. We are live now.
Good morning to each and everyone. I suppose we all will agree with the saying that the only journey is the journey within. Anything that's human is mentionable, and anything that is mentionable can be more manageable. When we can talk about our feelings, they become less overwhelming, less upsetting, and less scary. It is a great pleasure to be here today to open this webinar, which provides a valuable opportunity to highlight the positive steps that can be taken to promote mental health and well being. Discussions like these are important in building understanding of the fact that mental health issues affect people from all walks of life, men and women of all ethnicities, and from all socioeconomic backgrounds. Today's webinar on building hope will focus on the need of optimism and hope in this dire hour of crisis. To address all the pertinent questions and to give us a better and clearer picture of the importance of being optimistic and hopeful as well as mental health and well-being, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to Ms. Mimansa Singh Tanwar, who is a clinical psychologist with the Department of Mental Health Behavioral Sciences, Fortis Healthcare. As the lead clinical psychologist, she provides clinical supervision and assistance to psychologists to enhance therapeutic care across centers. She also heads the Fortis School Mental Health Program with a sense of passion for enhancing the mental health in children. She has co-authored many books which include Raising Confident Children, a 52-week guide, talking about mental health in the classroom, how to engage with your kids while working from home, and likes. Through her active engagement in the media, both visual and print, she has been working towards making mental health a priority for the young members of the society. I would also like to extend a very hearty welcome to Reverend Chairman Sir Mr. Gulshan Kumar Megan, esteemed manager of the school, Ms. Gurleen Kaur, the acclaimed advisor of the school, Ms. Mrinalini Kaura, Honorable Principal Sir, Mr. Atul Badhavan, respected Vice Principal Ma'am, Ms. Rajesh Banopriya, coordinators of respective wings, and all the teachers, students, and parents we have here. Hope can be a powerful force, especially in difficult times. Today, the world is facing the coronavirus crisis, a pandemic that has changed life for millions of people. In times like these, hope can be a powerful source of reassurance. Many who are locked at home, others who are working to help and prevent the virus also need the reassurance and the hope that we shall overcome this. I am sure today's discussion will highlight the techniques to cope with various barriers that we often face while dealing with this blatant crisis. This is to inform everyone joined with us here to kindly come up with their questions at the end of the session and type it out in the YouTube chat box so that they can be answered. With this, I would like to hand over the session to our resource person, Ms. Mimansa Singh Tanwar. Please, ma'am.
Thank you. Good morning to everyone. I would begin by saying that these are difficult times. And we all need to acknowledge the fact that how each one of us, all age groups for that matter, in the ongoing time period have been impacted. Whether it is children, whether it is you, me, the elderly, gender, every background, everyone, each one of us right now is impacted with the crisis situation that we are in. What essentially we need to recognize is that, we can't even call it unprecedented anymore. We are 14 months into the pandemic, and the second wave that we've gotten is, of course, worse than the first one. And we need to understand as to why is it that we ended up in a situation the way we have. And there are multiple, of course, levels and layers to why this has happened. But one of the most important things that we need to understand is, if we understand it from the perspective of as an individual of the society, it is to do with our own social responsibility to follow all the precautions that we were to follow and we need to continue to follow to be able to take control of the situation that we are in. So much has changed in our day-to-day lives. Let's look around us. The normalcy that has gone away. We are working from home. People are getting affected directly or indirectly. Each family at this point in time is impacted by COVID, by the pandemic. And there is a lot of fear. There is a lot of fear of the illness, that I may catch it, you may catch it, my loved ones may catch it, my children may catch it, or the fact that there is one family member or the other who is recovering from COVID at this point in time. And yes, we've also experienced loss and grief for the kind of situation that we are in. There are numerous emotions that we are experiencing at this point in time, whether it is fear, anxiety, helplessness, hopelessness, depression, features, sadness, dull moods, or a state of confusion because of the uncertainty that we are experiencing day in and day out. But what we need to essentially understand is that all of this is impacting our mental health. And mental health is separate from mental illness. What we need to first essentially understand is how the change in our day-to-day life that we are experiencing, it is impacting mental health of each and every one of us. And yes, we need to accept and acknowledge the fact that with the ongoing crisis that we all are facing at this point in time, experiencing anxiety, experiencing stress is a normal human response. And along with that, yes, sometimes having those dull moments, sometimes having those feelings of helpless and hopelessness, these are also normal human response that we are experiencing to the situation that we are in. But the key to be able to work to this is that we need to stay connected. We need to stay interconnected. We need to reach out, extend our help, take help from our friends, family, colleagues, alumni, distant family friends, because it's only our support systems collectively that will help us tide over these difficult times that we are in at this point in time. Our compassion, our ability to extend our support, altruism, these are some of the key behaviors that we need to follow at this point in time. Yes, there is fear. Yes, there is a lot of anxiety, but if we let it turn into panic, that's when things become a lot more complex. Because in panic is when we think of hoarding. It is in panic when we think of more about how do I protect myself. It is in panic when we are unable to really focus on what we can control. And we focus more and more on what we cannot control. And so even in this crisis situation, as a community, the way forward is to be able to come together in this space collectively to support each other. It's our togetherness which is going to help us come out of this situation. Let's understand, the inspiration that I take in today's time period right now are one from our COVID warriors, who are our frontline workers, who've been relentlessly showing their resilience, working day in and day out. For some of us who even think that how it's so difficult to be locked up in our houses. I mean, just imagine the kind of crisis that they have to go through, where they have to take these difficult decisions, where they are seeing grief all around them, giving families those news, working 90 hours in a week, in a month, going in, going out. Then there's this fear of coming back to the family, and still to the last coping resource that they are working. They of course are our warriors, but as a society, what we need to really show is our compassion towards them. This is a war, and that's what we need to understand, that as parents, as individuals of the society, we need to role model for our children, that how can we be continuously keep showing our compassion, our altruism to our healthcare workers, to each one around us, because it's only our help and our intent to help and our doing positive things to people around us is what is going to really help us. It's not merely about thinking positive in a time period like this. Yes, even in states of helplessness, hopelessness, there are ways of how we can be positive. But more than thinking positive, what we need to do right now is do positive. Because when we do those positive things, when we show gratitude to someone, when we help someone, it automatically evokes these positive feelings within us. We feel so much better. We feel so much strength within ourselves, and resilience for that matter. And it is this interconnectedness which is going to help us be resilient in the time that we are in. The other inspiration that I derive in this given time period is from our children, our little warriors, working, attending school from home, not going to the playgrounds, not meeting their friends and peers in the physical space, and they thrive on play. They thrive on those social interactions that they have with their peers. And they're missing out on all of that. Still, they are able to find a sense of joy and happiness from simple, small things that they do in their day-to-day life. Yes, with the kind of changes that they have been undergoing through, there is going to be a little bit of more of that irritability, of that snappiness, of temper tantrums, of anger. And we have to just take it in our stride. We just have to accept it, because this is like a normal human response that they are showing to the situation that we are in. And what we need to provide them as parents is solid support with an absolutely conducive, comfortable environment where we are non-prescriptive. We are not from morning till evening checking on them, what all have they done. We decided on this, you did not do this, you're not sitting for your class, you're watching so much TV, you're on screen all day long, you're not helping us at home, what is it that you're doing? What we need to give them at this point in time is our comfort, is our warmth, is our care, is our unconditional support, a non-judgmental space to be able to express themselves. Because children, yes, are also going through their own emotional changes. They can have their own anxieties too. They may have their own questions too. And it's important that we give them that free space to be able to have their questions answered, to also encourage them to connect with their peers virtually. They want to do a get together, they want to meet their friends, encourage them to do it on screen. And these are some stories. I mean, when I hear how a young adult is taking responsibility of the house where parents are COVID positive and are isolating, where an 8th grader is helping a 12th grader, where a 4th grader is coming together to look at, what is it that I can do? How can I keep up the morale of my grandparents, of my parents who are there in an isolated room, doing video calls, doing virtual calls. All of these things are stories of hope, are stories of inspiration, are stories of optimism that even our young ones are showing at this point in time. And there is so much more that they are learning in the given time period. They're learning moral courage, how despite the fear and the consequences that can happen, we still have to act morally. They're learning so many life skills, how to think critically when a problem comes in front of us. They're learning warmth and care in relationships, that how important it is to have that nourishment in relationships where we reach out to our grandparents, we talk to them, we reach out to our friends, a young 4-year-old calling an 8-year-old, and all these stories that we hear, and we see a child's enthusiasm because they're missing their peers and they are trying their best to reach out. Even for teenagers, we see that how the selfies and the tags have been replaced by the kind of energy that they show in being able to provide the resources, the information, checking on their peers, checking on their friends. It's the value and the meaning in relationships which they are seeing and they are showing at this point in time, which is so much more important to learn in the given time period. That if a board year goes missing, we have to give them that solid reassurance that you will still be okay, that life is a longitudinal axis, that at this point in time, the uncertainty that we all are going through, everyone is impacted and you're not alone. Millions of children across the globe are getting impacted by this. Each and every one of us is getting affected. So yes, you will be okay. What we need to continue to focus on is what is in our control. We are all trying to do our best that we can. But yes, when a friend reaches out for medicine, for oxygen, for some help or the other, which of course is something that we are all struggling with at the basic level, even the fact that you show them and you are there for them, that in itself creates those few moments of positivity and hope with them. Be there. Be there for each and every one, whoever that you can at this point in time. Because it is only together that we can come out of this situation. So if there are worries about children being on screen time, at this point in time, ignore it. The time period that we are in, imagine if this was 30, 40 years down the line when we did not have the digital interface to be able to connect with anyone and everyone. I can't even imagine what it would have been for us. The kind of loneliness, the kind of fear that we would have experienced at that point in time. We are in a much better age to be able to manage this pandemic. We are able to connect with whoever we want with the digital interface that we are in. And we need to make the best use of it. So yes, when I am doing my work, my 8-year-old is talking to her grandparents. Morning is one session, evening is one session. Now that the schools are shut, she's picked up on the initiative of, I'm going to do history sessions with my grandparents. I'm going to learn from one, teach to the other. I'm going to do this now. I'm going to do that now. So yes, if you help children and instill that hope and confidence in them, they come up with different ways of how to show their sense of responsibility. And that's what we need to encourage in children. And this is a life skill. This is a bigger life skill that they're learning at this point in time. At this point in time, if we look at life is an examination. And our outcomes will depend upon our sense of solidarity, our sense of compassion and togetherness. So each one of us need to continue to weave these stories of hope. For young children, they may have different, thoughts, different questions, different ways of how they want to perhaps understand what's happening around them. Use stories, use storytelling. The other day with my 8-year-old, I did this activity of time machine. That, let's make a time machine. Let's write a letter to us, which we read 5 years, 4 years, 10 years down the line when we come out of this, and see how together we traveled through this time, where our frontline workers were warriors, where each one of us had a role to play. We came together, we did our own, we learned new skills to be able to run our houses. Somebody is cleaning, somebody is cooking, somebody is taking care of something else. Somebody is taking care of the people who are ill. And then our young children who are taking the responsibility and finding joy and finding fun, even in difficult times. Let's put it as a memory. And then over a period of time, let's see how did we together travel through this time. And these are stories of hope and resilience that we need to continue to weave for our generations to come. We need to share positive stories. We need to build these stories of hope, where they realize that in these crisis times, what all did we do to come out of it? So what I'm going to end the session with is that, yes, Let's together, because together we must continue to keep working in the direction that we have, which is stay within our homes, follow all the COVID appropriate behaviors to break this chain. We have to amplify the positive messages. There are so many negative messages that are always floating around us from news, from media, but there are also stories of hope. There are stories of recovery. We need to amplify the positive messages. Look at a positive message, share it with the others. That is going to instill positivity in us. That is going to instill optimism in us. And yes, our stories of hope, inspiration, compassion towards the society are values. They are not something to be preached, but they are something to be followed. We need to keep on modeling those values, our intent, no matter how good it may be. But we need to put it in our action. This is the time to put our good intent into action for each and every one around us. So let's continue to keep doing that, because that's what our social responsibility as individuals is in the given time period. I'm opening the session to questions.
Yes, ma'am. There are a couple of questions which we have encountered in this session. One of the questions we have here is that as we all are undergoing through stress and anxiety, what are some ways to overcome and cope with that, and how to let it pass?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the first segment of the question.
Okay, so ma'am, the question is that as we all are undergoing through various types of stress and anxiety, what are some ways to overcome and cope with that, and how to let it pass?
So, anxiety, like I said, is normal in the given time period. What we need to recognize is that what are some of the basic changes that we can make in our day-to-day life. One is the fact that our routine has to be where we have some set goals. We maintain a sleep awake pattern. We are doing our regular things that we need to do. We also have to have some me time. Despite doing everything, taking care of people around us, cooking, working, taking care of children, still we need to find those small pockets of 5 minutes during the day where we can either listen to music, where we can just sit on the balcony, just relax ourselves, do some breathing exercise, do some physical exercise. 5 minutes. Don't consider this as luxury. We don't have luxury of time right now, but this is our first aid on our day-to-day lifestyle. When we are going to our and traveling to our work, and we would be listening to music, that was a unwinding time, that was a relaxing time. Now all of that has changed, so we still have to find ways and means to be able to have some of those basic things as a first aid to keep our mental well-being. Yet if you continue to feel that anxiety is overpowering you, it is still impacting you, you're unable to manage it, you're feeling a lot more overwhelmed, then unmute yourself. Talk to a family member, talk to a friend, talk to a colleague, talk to whoever you can. And if need be, reach out to a mental health expert. There are helplines available. Portis has a helpline which is available in 15 languages. It's a national helpline. You can always reach out on that. And at the same time, there are teleconsultations which are happening. So please reach out to a mental health expert when you recognize that the anxiety is taking over you.
Okay, ma'am, thank you so much. Another question that we have here is that many people are very anxious about catching the virus or transmitting it to a loved one. So, what can they do best to get over this kind of anxiety, wherein even if they're staying at home, they're still afraid that they would catch the virus from some or the other place, or even if they are catching it, they might even transmit it to the aged parents or the grandparents or the young children which they have in their homes?
See, I mean, we need to recognize the kind of situation that we are facing at this point in time. Of course, that can happen, but yet what we need to do is focus on what we can control. And what we can control is that we continue to follow our precautions. That is important. I don't feel guilty of the fact that I may transfer it to someone. It's a virus. As long as I know that I'm taking my precautions, if it still has to happen, it will happen. But what I know and I need to do to my best is keep following my precautions, which means go out, as least bare minimum possible, meet as bare minimum as possible. Only when it is a necessity you meet someone or you go out, and that also maintain your physical distance, wear your double mask, sanitize your hands, do all of these things as much as possible. And yes, when you are living in a society, if there are rules, protocols, please follow them, please coordinate with them, please cooperate with them, because this is for the goodness of our society and our community.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And that's the last question which we have. Media coverage can be especially triggering for those with anxiety disorders. The kind of news that we are witnessing on all the news channels, with the lack of oxygen crisis and lack of what not in medical facilities, it can be very much triggering for those with anxiety disorders. Even the calls from the relatives can be very much triggering for those with anxiety disorders, although they do understand that the calls are from a caring perspective, but then they do induce some kind of anxiety when one is going through the virus, undergoing the treatment of the virus, or maybe has lost someone. So how, what is the best method to cope with that?
So, see, there are two aspects to it. One is when we say, yes, of course, news is triggering. Like I said, that information all around us is just floating about what is happening. And yes, there is struggle at multiple levels. But what we need to essentially recognize is that one, try to maintain a balance and disengage from all the media messages that is there around us. It's a normal human tendency. If there is a negative information is out there, we are going to look out for that so much more than a positive one. And we need to change that. At this point in time, that's not what we need. Like I said, we need to amplify the positive. So if there is a negative information that has come in, try to disengage. You don't have to look at news morning, evening, on different platforms, and then WhatsApp messages that we continue to keep forwarding. We don't even know the source of the information, whether it is credible or not, whether it is authentic or not. As a responsible person, where we need to keep ourselves updated, we just go once or twice a day, go on a reliable source, credible source, look for all the information, and that's about it. At the same time, what we also need to focus on, the kind of good work that is happening. That's what we need to amplify more. That yes, people are also getting recovered. Yes, good work is also happening. When we do that, that's what gives us more reassurance than anything else. Negative news will only trigger us more and more. And the other buffer to this is, like I said, is our support system. Even within our homes, there might be tension, there might be anxiety, there might be fear. But those few elements of fun, humor, and laughter that you're going to have within your relationships, the dynamics, and your day to day life is what is going to act as a counter to that anxiety. The second element that I would like to add is, yes, there are families who are going through grief at this point in time, and we may have different response to grief. It's a very personalized experience. There is no right or wrong way of how one should be grieving and how one should not be grieving. We need to give each other the space to be able to do that. If there is a friend, if there's a family member, if you are directly impacted by it and you are right now going through bereavement, give yourself space, give your friend some space, give your family member the space that they need. Just be there, support them, ask them how can you help them. If it's you, then please ask for help, reach out for help. But take your time to recognize, realize your own emotional experience. And what is going to really help you come out of it and help you to be able to maintain your balance at this point in time with whatever you would be going through is the nourishment, care, and support from that you get from the closed ones, from meaningful relationships that you have. So please continue to stay connected. That is very important.
Ma'am, one of the other questions which we have from one of the parents is, what do the parents do if someone is corona positive in their house, and how do they contribute to keep hope alive?
We need to yes, that we are quarantining and we are in isolation. Still, do virtual calls as much as you can. Crack a joke here and there. Even in your illness times, the humor is something that really helps you to maintain your sense of hope and optimism. Humor is something that we really all need to bring in our lives at this point in time. Something that we have been practicing, whether it is our workplace, within our homes, I encourage all of you to please bring that as a mature way to be able to manage the kind of pain, anxiety that we are going through at this point in time. So yes, that's important. And like I said, whatever support that you can get from your friends, your distant family members, reach out, take care of that. Talk to your parents, talk to your distant family members. The nourishment that you're going to get at this point in time from them is going to be really, really helpful.
Ma'am, thank you. This was really very helpful. There is another question, that there is this pertinent and continuous sense of fear that due to fast mutation capacities, corona will keep on coming in some form or the other in future. And because of this, it is very difficult to restrain yourself for a very longer time at home, and not feel something that you are still going to catch. So people are very dubious and skeptical of the fact that they are staying at home and still be getting the virus in some or the other form. So they want some solution for overcoming this kind of fear.
See, I mean, wherever there is fear, the only way to cope from that is to build and create that hope within us. We may be experiencing a pandemic for the first time in our lifetime. This is the first pandemic that we all are seeing, witnessing directly. Civilizations in the past have also gone destructive, devastated, and still they've been rebuilt and recreated, because hope, the fact that yes, as a community together we can come and rebuild and recreate on something that has been destructed, is what takes away the fear, is what takes away the hopelessness. So how many mutations are happening, what is happening, what is not happening, is for the scientists to work on and find the answers to. At this point in time, we need to be honest to the fact that we don't have the answers to a lot of these questions and anxieties and worries, concerns that we are all having. What we need to continue to focus on: recovery. The fact that yes, people are also recovering. The fact that yes, we need to take our vaccinations. The fact that we need to continue to follow the COVID appropriate behavior, all the protocols, because that is the best that I can do. If I do that, then I'm at least reassured and confident that the best that I can do at this point in time, what I have been told, I'm doing that. And that in itself will reduce the percentage of fear.
Ma'am, and during these times, it is very, very important to think positive, and we ultimately become what our thoughts are. So nowadays, we are all suffering through it, going through all these situations. Still, it's really very hard to be positive. So, how can you make oneself think positive and build a positive atmosphere in the home?
See, like I said, this is a time for us to do positive as well. And that's why I've been changing the phrase that from think positive, we need to do a lot more positive things. When we do positive things, automatically it also turns into our own belief system. So sometimes it's the action that we need to engage in more than the belief system, because when you recognize that there is something as real as this, it may be very difficult to sometimes give away that belief system of fear, of anxiety. And which is why when you begin to act in a positive way, you recognize that yes, you're able to somewhere internalize that positivity within you. So help as much as you can, do other things, do some breathing exercises, do some mindfulness practice, 5 minutes, 10 minutes of the day, whatever simple things that you do, enjoy that. Find those moments to be able to do that. Read a book, dance on a song, listen to some mindful instrumental music, say positive things to each other, show gratitude to people who are helping each other, show gratitude towards doctors, show gratitude for simple small things that you have in our day-to-day life. I mean, at any given point in time, when one's morale goes down, that I'm still stuck within the home and I want to go out, just for 2 minutes, sit on the balcony, breathe in, breathe out, and just remind yourself that there are doctors over there who are wearing these PPE kits, wearing double masks, working virtually non-stop relentlessly. At least we are breathing the air that we can within our home space. I can't even imagine how can one do that, because it is just so difficult. It's just so difficult. The other day I went to the hospital wearing double mask, and in just 2 hours I was feeling this headache. And the sheer immense gratitude that I felt from that thought in itself made me feel so positive. So that's what we need to continue to remind ourselves.
Ma'am, it is very heartwarming to see that even the students of today, that even the younger students, they are very apprehensive of their siblings and they're acting as parents, as guardians at their home. So we have got a couple of questions from the students, probably, that they have little sister and little brother at home, and they're very apprehensive of their health, of what to do in order to save their little siblings from the virus, and what precautions can they take from the virus. So little something to overcome their apprehension.
See, like I said, this is what they are basically learning, and it's such a beautiful thing to see right now. So innocent and so human. For them to be able to feel that concern, care, love, warmth towards their siblings, towards their friends, and I think we just need to continue to encourage that. This is the strength in the relationship that I'm talking about right now. Children are learning, and it's, I think, going to be one of the biggest life learnings. We are realizing the meaning in our relationships, something that in the last one decade, despite we were so connected with the digital platform, we all were so disconnected in some way or the other. And that's changing big time. And I think we just need to really recognize that and appreciate that happening.
Ma'am, I would also like to add that the higher authorities of our school and MVS International School as an institution, we all are doing our bit for the students and the parents by conducting various and diverse activity classes, hobby lobby classes, sessions, and webinars, so that not only the students can benefit from it, but also the parents who are participating in it can have some benefits. So is there something else that the school as an institution can contribute more towards the well-being and the health, the issues that everybody is facing, to overcome that and to contribute in the help of that?
I think, like I said, we just need to come together as community. So parents supporting teachers, teachers supporting parents and students, and just in between checking on each other, sending some WhatsApp text messages, calling each other up. Just the sheer human connection that we need to give each other at this point in time is very important, and we just need to continue to keep doing that in the best way possible.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you. There's this last question which we have. Uh, there are some people who are already suffering through some or the other mental health issue at home, maybe a kind of anxiety disorder, maybe a kind of depression. How to deal with him or her in this pandemic, as it becomes comparatively more difficult for them as compared to us?
Ensure that they are taking their treatment properly. I think that's one of the first things that we need to do. Encourage them to keep their treatment regular as much as possible, and yes, provide them your support. um, I think that's what is very important at this point in time, because yes, if you are already struggling with the mental health condition, then any added on fear or stress can actually just worsen that situation. And that's what we need to just recognize, the fact that give them some space, ask them how they would like support from you, and just continue to encourage them to seek treatment as regular as possible.
Ma'am, although you have already told us the steps to be positive and to take precautions and whatnot during this pandemic, but we have this question from Parth Yadav, who is very apprehensive and concerned about his little sister. And his question is, I have a little sister at home. What precaution should I take for her? So, can I please request you to reiterate whatever you have just told for the younger siblings and the uh, students who are very apprehensive about and concerned about their siblings?
Parth, it's very heartwarming for you to have that concern towards your little sister. And as a responsible elder brother, I think, and as a younger sister, you just encourage her to wear her mask. You continue to keep doing that and support each other in a time like this. Play together, do whatever that you can together to have fun, to maintain your sense of happiness and joy within your home. I think that is going to help both of you, for that matter, to be able to deal with the anxiety that is there and that is coming and impacting all of us.
Thank you so much, ma'am. All our questions are answered, I suppose. And thank you so much for sharing your insights and expertise on this topic. We all are really very grateful to you for this knowledge which you have imparted. And I'm sure each and every one of us has benefited greatly from this webinar. So thank you so much, ma'am. I would like to thank each and everyone present in this webinar. And I'm sure that every one of us has benefited greatly from this webinar, learned some or the other techniques to be positive and to be hopeful in this, in and during this crisis in the world out there.